It's careers in clinical counseling. So what's clinical counseling? Clinical counselors are skilled professionals that practice psychotherapy or therapy, and they use problem-solving approaches to problem resolutions. Clinical counselors are client-oriented, so they deal with emotional and social problems associated with the client's personal life. So they focus on like wellness and prevention issues like substance abuse, relationship problems, and other things. Some services that they offer like psychotherapy, substance abuse treatment, and diagnosis. And some counseling jobs are like marriage and family counselor, licensed psychologists, and others. So we're gonna start off by talking about graduate school. These are different programs slash degrees that you're able to get depending on like your interests and I guess level of degree that you're willing to get. So the first one is a master's in clinical counseling. So these types of programs usually last 1 to 3 years. They usually have like specific concentrations that each school offers. So usually they include like marriage or family therapists or licensed professional clinical psychologists. Usually master's programs are very practice oriented. When you do get a master's, you're categorized as a therapist. And when you are looking into master's programs, it's important to match your interests to the program. So for example, if you're interested in like marriage and family therapy, looking for master's programs that offer that concentration. You're also able to get a PhD in clinical psychology. That program typically lasts 5 to 7 years. This is more research oriented, so you're able to conduct research. You're also able to teach and practice clinical work. With a PhD, you're considered a licensed psychologist. So the difference between a therapist and a licensed psychologist is that with a master's, you're not able to conduct clinical assessments. So that can be like neuropsychological like assessments to figure out like the diagnosis. And when you're looking at PhD programs, it's important to match your interests to the professors or faculty members. Since you are going to be doing research, it's important to match like your research interests to like professors and other faculty members that that match your interests. And then you're also able to get a PSYD in clinical psychology. So this program typically lasts 4 to 6 years. This is very practice oriented, similar to like the master's, where you have like more hands-on training and there's more of a clinical focus. With a PSYD, you're also considered a licensed psychologist. And with a PSYD, it's also important to match your interest to the program depending on the type of clinical work that you specifically want to do in the future. So these are just general grad school application requirements when you're considering applying to like a master's or a PhD or a PsyD in clinical psych. So in order to get admitted into the program, you do need a bachelor's degree. It doesn't have to be specifically to psychology. And with a PhD, research experience is strongly recommended since you are going to be practicing research. They usually ask for a statement of purpose and a personal statement. Depending on the program, some programs do ask for a writing sample. They ask for letters of recommendation. It can be 2 to 3. They ask for either your resume or your CV. They also ask for your GRE scores. I know last year GRE scores were waived, but just, looking at the programs and keeping yourself like up to date whether GRE scores are required. They ask for like a GPA of a 3.0 or higher. This also like varies depending on the programs, but the majority of the ones that I've seen are 3.0. They ask for your transcripts and a master's in counseling, or at least a master's in counseling is needed to take the licensing exams that allow you to practice therapy. And funding for graduate school. So depending on the programs, some programs do offer fellowships, for example, like TA positions or RA positions. For PhD programs, they do offer a stipend, and that stipend is from, you doing research or potentially like teaching at the university, and the stipend usually covers your tuition. You're also able to apply to any grants or any scholarships, and you're able to take out loans. So these are just some examples of master's programs specifically at Santa Clara University. So the first example is getting a master's in counseling psychology with the concentration of marriage and family therapists. So this specific program is a 3-year program. It's full-time. It's a 90-unit program. And this program prepares students to qualify for the marriage and family therapist license exam after finishing all the coursework, practicum, and clinical hours specifically for California. And they also offer a different concentration. They offer a master's in clinical psychology with a license, professional clinical counseling concentration. So this is usually a 3-year program. It's 90 units, and this does prepare students for the LPCC license exam after finishing like the coursework, practicum, and the clinical hours in California. And these are the first one at UCLA. It's a PhD in clinical psychology. This specific program is a 6-year program. They offer with a full-time 1-year internship. So the program again includes coursework. They do clinical practice training. They do teaching and research. And there's a PSYD program at Pepperdine University in clinical psychology, and that's 3 years of clinical coursework and supervised clinical training, also with a 1-year internship. And I've included like program informations. And then after, you're done with your graduate school, you passed your exams, you've graduated, you're now you need to get licensed in order to officially start practicing therapy. So in order to get licensed, when you have graduated and you have your master's degree, these are licensed specifically for California. So in order to be a licensed marriage and family therapist in California, you have to have 3,000 hours of supervised work experience. You have to fill out the application for the licensure. The price is $250 for the application, and then $250 for the exams that you have to take. So in order to be licensed, you first need to pass the California Laws and Ethics examination. And then after, you have to pass the California Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist Clinical Examination. And I have included the application here. And then for licensed professional clinical counselor in California, you have to complete, again, 3,000 hours of supervised post-degree hours. So this is after your master's degree. You have to fill out the application. The fee is $250. And in order to be licensed, you have to pass the California Laws and Ethics examination. And after you pass that, you have to pass the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor examination. And then licensure for your PSYD or your PhD, specifically for California. So then after you graduated and you've gotten your PSYD or your PhD, you have to apply to get your license. So you have to apply and pass the examination for professional practice in psychology. They call it EPPP. And this exam usually requires 1,500 hours of supervised professional experience. And then after you pass the exam, you have to apply and pass the California Psychology Law and Ethics examination. That one has a fee of $129. And before you take the exam, you have to have 3,000 hours of supervised professional experience with at least 100 1,500 hours completed postdoc. So after you received your doctorate degree. And then the last thing you need to do is request your initial licensure once you pass the CPLEE. And then I've also added the link for the application. So then after, you've gotten licensed, you've graduated, here are just different career options that you're able to go through. So for PSYD or PhD, you're able to be a researcher, you're able to be a professor, a clinical psychologist, and through that, you're able to have your own private practice. You can also work in any applied clinical settings. So this can be like hospitals, clinics, mental health centers, schools. And with master's degrees, you're a therapist. So you can do like marriage and family therapy, a general therapist. You can do counseling, such as like substance abuse or rehabilitation. And also, you're able to work at like different government facilities with both like the PhD and the PsyD. So to end, like these are a few resources if you want to go like more in depth with specific programs that you're interested in. You can make an appointment with us through our Google form. And if you want to discuss like more in depth about like your career options, you can also make an appointment with the EOP academic counselors. You can email them eop@ucsc, or you can make an appointment through Select Success. And that's it. If anybody has any questions.